So it looks like there was quite a bit of issues relating to the v0.30.x release lineage. Apologies for this. I think it was kind of expected. There was a lot of code churn in this drop, and also a lot of the configuration semantic changed from previous releases. So I think that created a lot of confusion related to configuration. So in this video, I wanted to show or dive a little bit deeper into k9s configurations, look at the various artifacts that composes it, and also do a little bit of a sneak peek based on the new features coming up in v0.31.0. So bear with me here. All right, so when it comes to configuring k9s, there's actually three ways to do it, right? The first way is you do absolutely nothing, right? So in the lower shell here, if we bring up k9 info, our good friend, this is the default location on my platform, which is currently on OS X. And we'll see that all the configuration file will live underneath, a given directory based on the platform at hand. If we look at the k9s documentation, we actually showing in the k9s here the various location based on your three major OSs here. This is where they'll end up in terms of not setting anything at all. The second option is to specify, where that location is using the legacy k9s _config_dir, all uppercase environment variable. And in this case, it's very similar to the first option, except you designating where that k9s configuration root directory is going to be at using that environment variable when you set it. And then the last option, which is the one that I prefer using, is using the XDG scheme. So if we look at the upper shell here, if you look at my XDG environment on my machine, I have four environment variables defined: config, state, data, and cache. Cache, we don't really leverage it too much right now. The only time we actually dumping cache is when you have vulnerability image scan enabled. This is where the vulnerability database will be stored to validate your images. So this is the location for that. The config home at the top is really about things that you want to set up at the global level in k9s. So all of those are all configuration related to what the UI looks like, but also how you would configure any cluster that you'll be visiting using k9s, right? So here it's a combo of several artifacts, aliases, hotkey, plugins, views, as well as your main root skins directory, which is where you'll put either skins from the repo or your own custom skins that you want to pick based on your preferences for the look and feel of k9s. Again, in v0.30.x, I think that's where we had the departure. We're no longer supporting the YML extension. We've all normalized to YAML. So this is one of the big changes there in terms of naming. We also had contributions, so thank you for those, for normalizing the skin names and the plugins, no longer using a combo of either underscore or dash. Everything was normalized to use dash in the file names. And I want to, make sure I thank, all the contributors here for the skins to make our k9s journey a little bit more colorful and fun. So thank you so much for those contributions. Also, I would like to see more of those, contributed. That's you have like special UI chops. You want to contribute some skins there for k9s. I think that would be totally awesome. And similarly for plugins, I think we got a decent selection, but I think there could be more interesting plugins that could be contributed there. So if you are so inclined, please do so. All right, so let's go ahead and say, for example, you have installed the latest drop, which could be coming up here, v0.31.0. My hope is that this will address a lot of the issues that we've seen in the repo along those lines of configurations. Again, this was quite a bit of code churn, so yeah, there probably is going to be breakage as well, but hopefully we're moving the needle in the right direction. So if I start k9s in debug mode, right off the bat, we'll bomb. And the reason why we're bombing here is as part of the 31.0 drop, we now added schema validation on top of the configuration artifacts. And this will allow us to, give you a little bit more insight about, what options should be there, what should not be there, and how it should be set. So in this case, first breaking change, this v0.31 doesn't come without, sadly. The full screen log attribute on the YAML for the root configuration file is no longer supported. This should read full screen, and this is why we're actually buffing right there on that particular attribute. So if I bring up a new window here, and this is my root config directory for k9s. If I look at the main configuration here, again, this applies to all clusters. So one thing to note here on line 8, this UI subsection was added as part of the v0.30x drop. This is all UI related bits that you can set here. I'll go into more detail in a second. But the one we want to look at right now is the logger section. Again, we're trying to normalize things, make things a little bit more consistent. Well, full screen log in the logger section, this isn't right? So let's simplify this and name it for what it is on that section. So that should be full screen. All right, if I save this and cleared my screen and restart, hopefully we will be launching k9s again. Yeah, so that's all good. All right, so another couple things I want to point out here. If you look in the main configuration for k9s, there's this attribute here, read only. This is a new. So this is where you can set, either at the global level or on the context-specific environment, that read-only variable, right? If that bit is set, that means that any things that you're trying to do, in terms of edit or dangerous or classified as dangerous action on your cluster will be disabled, right? So in this case here, and this is a new feature in 31.0, you can see there's a lock icon next to the context here, indicating that this context at this time is set up as read-only as far as k9 is concerned. Of course, this is not the best way to do this. You use RBAC policies on your user to lock them in. This is a feature that I've had for quite a while now. I'm going to keep it there. I think it's still handy to avoid stupid errors when you are connecting to a cluster if you don't have correct policies set up, for example. Okay, so you can see now, if you're familiar with k9s, in the pod view, which is where I'm at here now, so I have this lock icons, but also you can see that none of the edit, delete, kill operations are available here in the upper menu, right? So there is definitely a lockdown on those as well. Now, the other option here that is part of the UI section, this is brand new as of 31.0, is this option here on line 14, which is reactive. It's currently set to true. That means that when we are in the reactive mode in k9s, we're actually watching artifacts on disk, and when those changes, it will produce changes in the UI, right? This is what that mode is set. It is set to false by default, so you have to manually enable this to basically get what I'm going to show here in a second. So being part of a reactive mode means that I can now, on the fly change the skin and see the skin, changing as I set it. So for example, if I use the skin, again, this skin name is the name of the file in the skins directory. So in this case here, Night Fox. which should be right here, minus, of course, the directory path and the .yaml extension. All we need is the file name, the pure file name here for the skin. All right, so if I save that, we can see that the UI now has changed to have the new skin apply. And because I have changed the skin, and also because I'm in reactive mode. So the idea being that you can customize your cluster, get everything the way you like it, then you can just turn off the reactive mode, and that would be it. So you can, share configuration across your team so that everybody uses the same configs. Whatever the scenario is, this is the convenience. So you don't have to restart K9, you just have that hot reload action going on here. Okay. Now, similarly, if I flip that bit from read-only to true to read-only to false, so watch the upper header here on the k9s application. Sorry, if I save that, you can now see the lock icon change to a pencil, meaning that guy is now editable. And you can also see that the action changed. Now you can see you have delete, edit, potentially destructive, operation on the cluster. So if I switch view to a deployment here, you can also see that we have restart and scale. So if I disabled again the read-only option here, and I set it to true. Sorry, if I enable the read-only action, I should say, you can see that the action also changed. So now you can no longer scale or restart your deployment. This is pretty much read-only mode here. Okay, so this is kind of an interesting aspect of that. All right, so another set of configurations here that is available is the concept of aliases. So aliases in k9s are in essence a way to shortcut a command or specify a custom command, right? So these are the default aliases that we provide out of the box in a pristine environment. This will be generated for you, and that file will be written to disk. So for example, I can look at my cluster roles, using CR, or cluster role binding using CRB, and so forth and so on, right? So this applies to all the clusters you're going to be connecting to with k9s. It's a global configuration, all right? Again, note the pluralization. I think that one didn't change, if I remember correctly, if memory serves. But usually now the file name and the top root tag in the YAML should be matching. That's kind of like the idea behind that. Similarly, so this is a very similar concept, is the idea of a hotkey. And a hotkey is also a custom command, except you don't type the command, you just use a combination of keys to get you there, right? So in this case here, if I did shift 1, I go to deployment. If I did shift 2, I go to services, shift 3 to stateful set, whatever, right? So again, you can configure this to your liking based on things that you do all the time on your cluster. And you can run here any commands. Thanks to Jason Wang, he also contributed a PR here to enable, things like the environment variables that we have available for plugins are also surfaced here, so you can use those environment variables as well, in those commands, which is kind of handy. Okay, so again, mindful of the pluralization, I believe this was hotkeys file and a hotkey root tag. I could be wrong here, but I think there was something along those lines. One guy for sure that was host. I know you guys got burned on this, and it's on me. I should have yelled louder when I put the release notes about this. That pluralization burnt a lot of people, and it's not trivial to see what is going on. So the hope here with the schemas that are now in place is you should be able to goof or fat finger some stuff and be able to see the net result of it, right? So remember, I started k9s in debug mode. So if we look at the debug logs here, we can see that in this file we have this issue right now with the schema. We are expecting to have a plugins tag, and we only have a plugin tag, so it doesn't match the schema. We get a validation error. And to reinforce that, and again, the paint is still wet here, but we leveraging a logo warning here. You can see that something is wrong. Eventually, we'll probably put a view on this to just show you all the validation issues. Might be better than doing it via the logs, but hey, for the time being, let's make sure we vet this feature. We have the proper TLC. The idea really is with the schemas, they're not really locked down right now. They are pretty loose in some ways. The idea would be that we iterate on those, firm them up, and once they are up to snuff, we'll publish them out to maybe a public location, and then you can tie them in to your favorite editor and be able to get validation based on the K9 schemas to be able to validate your artifact that you'll be editing manually. So that should be a little bit of a hand guiding through setting up those environments and the various options. So hopefully you'll find this handy and useful. So hopefully, if I change this back, so now that should have addressed some of the issues, people getting burned and then figure it out on their own. So sorry about that again. If I, save that file, eventually that, signal should be cleared and we should be all happy again. And in this case, if I go back to my pod view, now we can see that we have, the logs stern, which is this plugin right here, is now active on this particular view, which is the pod view. Okay, so hopefully this makes sense. Likewise, views, actually, I have a view here defined, a custom view. I do have a JVR here for pods, but this guy is not showing up. Okay, so no surprise there. Actually, this is also part of the breaking change coming up in v0.31.0. So hopefully you watch the video so you don't spend 2 hours figuring out what the hell did I do wrong. And that would be on me, of course. This guy also is not in line with his other brothers, the plugins here. We start with the plugins tags in the plugins file. In the views file, we start with the K9. That doesn't fly. So we've changed this. So this should now read, something like this. Let me reindent, get rid of the space. And our views is now proper, the schema validated, and here we have now the correct view or the correct customization on the pod view. Okay, so hopefully this all makes sense. All right, so the next set of feature is, so this is all global, right? This is everything that you can do globally at the root level for K9, but also you can, do things at the cluster level. So remember, this is the XDG data home that I'm looking at here. This guy has subdirectories called clusters, and for each cluster that you are connecting to and their context, we actually, if there is no file there that exists, we initially generate a set of default configurations. And if there is existing ones, we will use those. All right, so in this context, I mean k9-b. And if I go there, I actually have 3 separate contexts underneath this cluster. And the one that I'm currently looking at is this guy right here. And if I look at this configuration file, it's pretty straight out the box. It's pretty simple. And this is what I have here going on at this time. All right, so now in this configuration, you can also override the global configuration. So again, I'm going to see this because I am in reactive mode. If you are not in reactive mode, you will have to cycle K9 and restart. Okay, so if I set now, my cluster is currently set globally to read only. If I override this to say read only false here, we'll see the icon change to a pencil, and then more capabilities are added because now I can actually edit on this cluster, right? So similarly, those are attributes here for skin. This perhaps will end up to be in his own UI section to be consistent with the K9's root. I haven't done that. If you guys feel strongly about it, we can add it. It's not that big of a deal. So let's say, for example, here, let's use the skin Monokai. Again, this guy has to exist, right? So if I set this skin now, we are cool. We can see the change here live. But if I fat figure it or that skin just does not not exist, will revert back to whatever the original skin was. So if you didn't have any skins to start with, you will end up to be looking like the stock skin. But in this case, remember in our general configuration, the skin was set to 9fox, and that's what we got here is that skin right there. Okay, so if I switch it back to be correct, this would be the case here. Again, now because I'm still in reactive mode, and again, this would be typically set when you set the lock favorite option on, which basically says, hey, k9s, I know what I'm doing with my namespaces, don't mess them up. I'm going to specify my own list here. Favorite namespace are dynamic, right? The section of that configuration is managed by k9s, really. So when you switch, namespace or what have you, that section will update. But if you lock it, you can basically say, if I lock it, set the bit to true, then you can, mess around with it. So I could, move. All is always going to be on the top, so it doesn't really matter. But let's say I want to look at Fred last and Cube System next. So if you look at the top header here, you'll see the order change here to all default Cube System and Fred. So this is another part of that. So not all the file is reactive, only a certain aspect of it. Here it doesn't make sense, to activate a different namespace or a different view, manually in that file. This is just for UI bits, mainly, be able to change those live without having to reload, which is kind of handy. Okay, so I think that was all I had to tell you about this. Well, sorry, actually there's one more thing. Okay, if I switch to a different cluster, I apologize, I lost my train of thought. So if I switch to k9-b-d, okay, and I look at this configuration here, sorry. Okay, so this was this guy, but now if I look at this guy here, this guy is a little bit different. So here, I actually, just like I've refined the skin with the previous context and changed the read-only mode, you can actually do more, right? So on this particular context, I have aliases defined, let's say Fred, right? So let's say this cluster, there is specific workloads running, and I actually want to focus on those, right? How do I do this? Well, you can define your own custom alias at the context level to refine those features. So if I look for Fred here in the aliases, you'll see I've got an alias here for Fred in that context only. And if I press enter, basically it will kick me back to the other context. A little bit confusing here, but it kicks me back to previous context and show me pods in namespace Fred. That's what that alias was about, right? So again, everything that I just talked about at the global level is also available at the context level. So things like hotkeys, you can define your own. So for example here, if I went back to this cluster, to this context, sorry, and go back to -d, and if I looked at the help here, you can see that now I've got this shift 9. If you remember, the original set of hotkeys only went up to 7, right? So now I've got a new option here, shift 9, which is in essence defined in that particular context hotkeys file. And this gives me now the ability to do a shift 9 on to look at endpoints, for example. Okay, so this is another specialization. And likewise for plugins, if I go back to the pods here, excuse me, you can actually see that I have a new plugin, which is logs less. And again, by the same token, if this was screwed up for some reason, you can see the warning flashing here, and all of a sudden, I've lost my logs less plugin. I no longer have access to this. So this is an indication that something is screwed up with the configuration. I can fix it. It'll clear the alarm and then set you back on your way. And here is the new logs less shift L option available here on the pod. And I can do shift L and view the logs for this. Okay. So, that's actually kind of a weird one. What happened here? Wow. Okay, well, maybe there's something going on with this plugin. I just grabbed it out of the box. I'm kind of surprised they actually tried to launch k9s. Is that what it did? Shift L. Oh no, here we go. I must have typed the wrong thing. Never mind. Sorry, I've been seeing bugs everywhere. I can't tell you how long it took me just to do this recording, going back and forth, fixing issues and trying to record. Okay, so I think that's all I wanted to show you guys. I want to thank you for your kindness and patience as we go through a little bit of turmoil here with k9s. Hoping things are the dust will settle here, but I wanted to dispel some of the myth around the configurations and the confusion there. So hopefully this was helpful to you guys. Yeah, since it's common courtesy here to wish you all Happy New Year 2024. I hope it's a good year to all of you. Great happiness, great health, and success. Also, if you are so inclined, make sure to sponsor the project. If it saves you any time at all, you or your team any time at all, please make sure to pay it forward. That's all I have, you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. See you on the next one. Bye.